minister at the time both said it was not the position of the government. You didn't share the view. And I wonder how we are to square that, knowing now that the Deputy Justice Minister at the time and the Executive Director of the Office of Aboriginal Affairs were both briefed on what his plan was regarding his argument.
Well, at no time did I instruct.
No, I understand you didn't instruct him.
Let me finish, then you can ask your next question. Him or did Mr. Miller, and as you can tell by Mr. Miller's statements, he disagrees with the position taken by the Cameron that those were the instructions provided by our government.
I understand that, but that's, with respect, not what I suggested. My question was, regarding the previous statements from this government that they had no idea that argument was going to be made, how are we to square that with the fact that Mr. Cameron had meetings with the Deputy of Justice and the ED and the CEO of Office of Aboriginal Affairs ahead of the hearings to let them know his plan?
If you go back and look what happens as you go through that process, and I think it's before the legislature demonstrated how the Department of Aboriginal Affairs that was not their position. They were not the client. Let's go back to the reality of who was the client. I think that's an important piece. At no time, though, did I instruct him or did Mr. Miller. As you can see by Mr. Miller today, he's categorically denying the allegations there. So we'll continue to go forward and the court will determine.
Premier, I'm not saying you did. No one here is saying you did. That's not what Mr. Cameron's document says. What Mr. Cameron's document says...
I'm sorry, I'm frustrated.
Well, you're not answering the question respectfully, sir.
I am, just not the way you want it.
Premier, Mr. Cameron notes a meeting in July of 2017 with Tilly Pillay and Julie Towers, where he told both of them his plans for his argument. How are we...
When did he file that, you know?
It's in his affidavit.
When did he file it?
When did he file the affidavit?
Yeah. No, when did he file it before the courts?
Sir, that's not what I'm asking,
It is so, because he filed it in June.
Sir...
You're saying he had a meeting in July, and he filed something in June.
Okay, but nevertheless, he had a meeting to inform them of his argument, Premier. This is semantics.
No.
Senior government officials, according to court documents, were made aware of the argument he was planning to advance. So how is it then that the government had no knowledge of the argument he was planning to advance?
That was not the argument of the government. So let me be clear. We continue to say, which I've said from day one, we have a duty to consult, and we met our obligation. That was it. Period.
But if
what
it
he
wasn't...
provided in the court in June was not the position that we said. This is what we have an obligation to do. Now, this will be before the courts again. And Mr. Miller is obviously will then file his defense.
But Premier, if it wasn't the position of the government and they knew what he was planning to do, why would someone not say to him, haul that brief, we don't want it there?
You're making a leap that it didn't happen. You're making that assumption. Let's let the court decide that.
Can we see some evidence that it did?
Others will determine that.
Can we see some evidence that it did?
You suggested back in 2016, I believe former Deputy Premier also suggested back in 2016 that Mr. Cameron acted alone, that he wasn't representing what the government wanted to do. He was acting on his own. Is it now your understanding that he acted alone? The documents were certainly make it appear that he did not act alone.
That brief was filed in June. There have been a number of conversations that you've described in what was in the courts today. I didn't know anything about that until it was mentioned on the floor by the former member from Truro Bible Hill, Senator Noble. I then asked the question. Our position has always been, I came to Alton Gas, we have a duty to consult. We believe we met that obligation. If you go back to my former Minister of Energy at the time, said the duty to consult was not a veto power. We had met what we believed was that obligation. That was our defense.
So did Mr. Cameron act alone?
Listen, this matter will be before the court. That'll be determined.
But it's not before the court now. You've said in the House a few times today that it's a matter before the courts. It's actually not. That matter has been resolved now.
Listen, that's resolved. The position was resolved today to put it before. It'll go before the court. That is my position. We'll continue to. I continue to take the position I have, and we'll continue to move forward.
How much has this government spent on legal fees related to the Supreme Court challenge?
I don't know the answer to that question, and when it's done, we'll file that and we'll communicate that.
It's done. So when will your government release the bill?
When we look at it, but it will be back before the court. It's all indications from Mr. Cameron. This will be back before the court. The purpose of these court hearings was to go to court. We'll see the process.
But we're mixing two things.
Keep those fees secret. So
well, I don't know what they are. I'll have a look at them and find out whether we release them now or whether we do it again.
Okay, the Ingersoll report, which is the report I believe that Diana Whalen commissioned back in 2016 to find out what went wrong. She told us she had announced publicly that she wanted to find out what went wrong, and she commissioned this report. Will you release the report now that the matter before has been rejected by the Supreme Court?
I don't know what's in the report. I don't know why it hasn't been released, but that would be a question for the Attorney General.
Do you know why the report was never shared with Mr. Cameron?
No.
Do you think it should be?
That's a question for the Attorney General.
Premier, do you feel that you and your office, your senior officials, have been completely above board in this matter?
Absolutely. I've continued to tell you exactly what I know and what I knew. The fact of the matter is, it's been my position always that I have a duty to consult with Supreme, we as a government do. And we believe we've met that obligation. If you go back even further in this conversation, as I said, my former energy minister laid out, this is not a veto power. It's a duty to consult. We believe we've met that obligation. And actually, I think 9 of the 11 First Nations agreed with us, communities. 2 didn't. We ended up before the court, and that's where we are.
Do you think that senior government officials did a good enough job keeping you and Ms. Whalen in the loop about what was going on this file?
Listen, I have all the confidence in the senior public servants.
Can we just ask?
Were you the tall gentleman who was referred to in that document?
There's lots of tall people. I'm assuming there probably wasn't, but I'm assuming that's a better question at some point from Mr. Miller.
Premier, can we talk a little bit about the ongoing blockade and the effect it's having on our port? As you know, ACL has diverted traffic, and now Hapag-Lloyd is talking about doing that. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, obviously, this isn't, as I've said all along, this is about the economy of the country. The rule of law applies to all of us. I believe it should be enforced to ensure that goods and services make their way across this country. Communicate that to the national government. It's my understanding now the RCP moved away from the First Nation land in British Columbia. It's my hope now that we'll see those blockades come down, particularly the one that's in Ontario, which is really causing a huge bottleneck, but it's had a tremendous impact on the port, CN, via rail, in and out of here goods and services, and we're certainly concerned about the supply of propane, as well as, quite frankly, chemicals that are required to ensure that our water systems continue to provide good water.
As you know, when large companies, multinationals, decide to make a change, it's hard to get them to come back.
Listen, it's a worry. It's a worry. There's no question about it. It's a concern. Ford has expressed that concern. We've expressed that concern to the national government. If you look in my understanding in the West Coast, typically you have 6 or 7 ships lined up. There's well in excess of 60 there now, trying to move goods and services across the country. But the rule of law in this country applies to all of us, and we believe it should be enforced.
What does that mean in practical terms, Premier?
Well, obviously, at times there's an injunction now in Ontario that's not being enforced when it comes to moving the goods and services across this country. We believe those goods and services need to get to the East Coast of Canada.
So the police should move in and clear the tracks?
That's listen, they'll go in and communicate with them. That'll be up to them, the law enforcement agency of record in that particular community. But that's why people end up going to court for the injunction, is to be able to continue to move on and allow commerce to happen.
Rigaud yesterday said that he would like to see a timeline, a deadline on this, when those barricades were removed. He was looking for support from other premiers on that idea. Do you support it?
We had a conversation last night. All the premiers did. I believe we meet tonight. I think there's one tonight with the Prime Minister. We wanted the federal government. My position is the federal government needs to lay out a clear plan on how they're going to get the economic or the commerce of this country moving. We need to know, and they'll lay out to us what that looks like.
Does that mean a deadline?
Well, it's up to the Prime Minister to lay out the Canadian population and what it is. In my view, one is to happen today. So the federal government has a responsibility here to lay out what it is we're going to do to ensure that the commerce of this country continues to move forward. This is an economic question, and all Canadians deserve to be part of a vibrant economy that's going, and it shouldn't be held up because certain people decide that they're going to blockade railroads.
Did the feds wait too long to get involved?